Well, hey, welcome to the jungle. We are here. We are wanting to do some more Bengals talk, and here at the riverfront, we thought, what better time than the shellacking of those Raiders from out in Las Vegas, Oakland, Los Angeles, wherever
They have a real
they are
identity crisis. Yeah.
currently. Seth Shaner here with Tim Daniel. Tim, it's great to get to sit down with you.
Yeah, man, this is great. I'm glad that we decided to kind of get one of these out, try to get some content back to this feed, and try to get things going. I know Joe is looking to get back in action, so hey, let's see if we can get back on this Who Day content.
No, we'll kick off right now with the 4-5 Bengals as
Boy,
we'll get into that a little more as far as what's coming up this week. It's a very short week, and I hate the Thursday night game. When I see the schedule in the spring, I look immediately. We have to play at least one Thursday night game. Can we host it? And so I'll never forget the trip down to Miami. They made the Bengals play either the Jets or Giants at 4 p.m. on Sunday, and then they had to go to Miami.
the Jets. I was at that Jets game.
Yeah, 2013, I think it was, or whichever year it was. It was in the middle of the Andy Dalton era, and Geno Atkins got hurt down there in that game, and it kind of sunk the season. And it's just all that travel and everything. So hopefully better things to come this week when they go to Baltimore. We'll get to that in a moment. Tim, they won 41-24 against the visiting Raiders. They've scored 30 or more points by my count 4 times this year, and they're only 2-2 in those games.
Yeah, it's a lot to say about your defense at that point, right? And what we've seen so far. And I know obviously they've been down a lot of guys, specifically interior defensive linemen has really hurt them. But I thought the defense has played pretty well of late. Maybe not so much the Eagles game, but I thought in that game, obviously, when you're going from, Jalen Hurts to Gardner Minshew and Desmond Ridder, there's a big change there. But and Trey Hendrickson going against a backup tackle, obviously you feel really good about that. And he took full advantage of that. He was terrific yesterday. So you take the win, obviously, and that in this NFL, it's not easy to come by those, no matter who's on your schedule. You do kind of have to kind of look at a grain of salt of who the teams are that you've beat so far. Not a single the Bengals have beat so far this year has more than 3 wins. But other than that, 4-5 and somehow only a game out of a playoff spot. So.
Yeah, I mean, they also have a loss to the Patriots. So
yeah, that's not good.
A friend of mine from high school on Facebook, he's somehow a Raiders fan, and he was saying, hey, you Bengals fans, you need to settle down. The Raiders are already in tank mode and all this. I was like, hey, take a win anywhere you can get it. 41-24. The defense played pretty well. One of those touchdowns was a pick six on another easy-to-read screen pass, which – my favorite teams this weekend, the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Cincinnati Bengals, had won each of those. So I'd like to stop that if we could. Joe Burrow with 5 touchdown passes. He does so by hitting Mike Gesicki twice, Chase Brown, Drew Sample, and Andre Yosivas. Somebody on Twitter said something to the effect of, get out of here with it's only his weapons that makes Joe Burrow good.
Yeah.
Just quite an effort there for Burrow yesterday.
The thing I tweeted this yesterday during the game that, I love more than just as much as anyone watching Joe Burrow just chuck the ball downfield. It's obviously fun. But this Joe Burrow where he's moving the pocket and he's improvising and you just kind of see his pocket presence kind of take full effect. And he's on his feet making throws, kind of finding people in the back of the end zone. I mean, the Gesicki last second touchdown where just they basically ran those 4 verticals and he was by himself in the middle of the field. But the Yoshivas touchdown, the Chase Brown touchdown where he's right there, like as close as he can get to the back of the end zone. And then the Gesicki touchdown where he's diving in the back left corner of the end zone. That is when Joe Burrow is, I don't know if I would say his best, probably, but the most fun to watch is when it's obviously great when he hits Jamar for a 75-yard bomb. No one's ever going to complain about that. But seeing him just kind of figure things out and move around and really, I mean, Max Crosby got some hits on him, obviously, illegal ones.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the Bengals did an excellent job keeping Joe clean from him legally. So.
Crosby with a season low 3 tackles, 0 sacks credited, although he had the one where he's offsides. It was funny on that play. It sounded like the crowd was so loud.
Yeah.
I kind of heard the whistle. Even the announcers, though, with their headsets on, did not hear the whistle. And Crosby, until probably the second he hit Burrow, appeared not to have heard the whistle. Certainly a bit of a cheap shot. That was discussed a little bit in the media as far as why didn't the O-line rush to help him. But Joe Burrow has this way about him. I didn't like seeing the franchise quarterback get hit like that, right? But Joe Burrow is just so tough that he says, hey, it's a football play. I know you didn't hear the whistle. He hugged him right away. I think Joe diffused the situation almost immediately. But let's get back to Gesicki. Gesicki with 5 catches for 100 yards. He broke out the gritty, which was much better than his Miami Dolphins gritty effort.
True.
He's been working on that. I'd say Jamar's probably helped him out a little bit. Between Gesicki as almost like the slot receiver in this case with the wide receiver deficiencies, but also as like a release valve at times. And also Chase Brown, good friend of the show, Chris Garber, has season tickets, was at the game. He was tweeting that this has been a good game, but it feels like Chase Brown and Joe Burrow have kind of teamed up to bail the Bengals offense out multiple times. Sometimes you have to do that, though. You keep drives alive. I feel like Chase Brown, he had 100 yards rushing, 120 went over 100 yards rushing, 120 yards rushing for the day. Also was a key in the passing game. Thoughts on Brown and Gesicki kind of being good bailouts for Burrow when things aren't quite right?
So I've said this throughout the year, and so it's the first time I guess I'm saying it on wax, obviously, but this trend of this 1-year rental for Bengals tight ends, I'd be very okay if that ended this year. I'd be very okay if Mike Gesicki's back on the team next season. I think he should be. I think that what he's done the last 2 weeks, where I know he was kind of not involved for a few weeks there, but he was awesome in the Philadelphia game, regardless of how the score looks. And he was really good yesterday in the Raider game. I feel like it's perfect fit for what the Bengals offense wants to do. He's probably a better player than Hayden Hurst was, in the sense that I love Hayden Hurst as much as the next person, but Gesicki's probably a better version of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a very smart X's and O football guy, so that is my expert analysis there. But also with him, it's just kind of seeing where like having that wide receiver option, it's very similar to what he did in his previous stops. And then on the Chase Brown side of things, like I still think Zach Moss definitely has a spot on this football team, and I really do like Zach Moss. I think he's definitely serviceable, but Chase Brown has definitely been the better player, and I think that's plenty obvious on both the the rushing and passing game. Maybe not as great of a blocker per se. They had to use Travion Williams for that quite a bit yesterday, and then they obviously just brought Drew Sample in the backfield to kind of be that H-back in the blocking circumstances. But what Chase Brown's able to do with that explosiveness, it's you really haven't seen a Bengals running back have that. Probably, I mean, Jeremy Hill had his moments, but probably since Giovanni Bernard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd say Chase is a little more durable looking, again, without X's and O's and things like that. I guess one thing for Bengals fans as a whole, and if you follow Twitter or if you listen to comments on radio calls or on podcasts, we're getting used to now. We were one of the only franchises in the NFL these last several years with Joe Mixon where we had more of a one-back situation. Now, certainly P. Ryan did a great job on third downs, and you're going to, even Corey Dillon would come off the field and guys would come on third down, things like that. So that's normal. But in the NFL right now, there are 2 backs all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of different offenses utilize that on a down-to-down basis, not just, hey, we've got our third down blocking back. So we've got to train ourselves a little bit to understand that even if Chase Brown is the number one guy, Moss, if healthy, is also going to get several carries throughout a game. And that's just kind of normal throughout the league. A, it keeps him fresher. B, not everybody's built to be a down-to-down back for an entire game, like 20 to 25 carries. Some of the passing stuff was necessitated, though, and we'll touch on this real quick. Jermaine Burton, by all accounts, all through the week, Joe Burrow going out of his way to say great things about him, how it's time. It's almost like, hey, it's time now. He's shown enough progress and enough wherewithal with the offense that we need to utilize him more. You kind of knew going through the week that T. Higgins probably wasn't going to get to go.
Right.
It's like served up on a platter for him to have more of a breakout game. And yet apparently he's late to meetings and he misses a walkthrough. I guess we've got to touch on it. We can't just ignore it. That came out before the game. We're going to talk a little bit more later about your stream of consciousness and on Twitter or X. But before we get to that, touch on that a little bit. The idea that, my goodness, a must-win game against a lowly opponent with a chance as a rookie to basically set the tone for what your career could start becoming. it doesn't make sense to me if it's all true that he missed an actual walkthrough.
It's really disappointing because he basically could have been T. Higgins yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were going to make sure Jamar Chase didn't beat them. And Mike Gesicki got to be T. Higgins because Jermaine Burton last minute gets taken out of the game plan that it was basically, I mean, you kind of heard them, you heard Box talk about it yesterday. There was a big game plan around him for sure in this game for this matchup. And it was his chance to kind of elevate himself and his time to shine. And he didn't take full advantage of it. Now, I do appreciate, I don't say this much, I do appreciate that Zach didn't just completely bury him in the post-game presser because he had every opportunity to. And Joe, same thing. At that same antidote, I do appreciate Mike Hilton in his post-game being like, hey, man, like, no one's holding your hand anymore. You're not a kid. Like, time to grow up. This is your job. And so, you know, he didn't say it was a distraction. He said it was just kind of a regular thing that happens in the locker room. But for Burton, a highly touted prospect, I mean, a highly touted draft pick, a guy who there was a lot of controversy into the draft. There's a reason the Bengals got him where they did, right? And this is your chance to kind of put all that behind you and just play football, and you didn't do it. So I hope this is not a trend. I don't know if he's going to get the Jonas Gray treatment. You remember he had that 280-yard game with the Patriots and then was never seen again because he missed a meeting. But you know, he's got to know this was a great opportunity for him, and hopefully he takes it. You know, he understands that and takes the pressure and turns it into something.
Yeah, this is awesome. That's the second Jonas Gray reference in any conversation I've had in the last 3 days. So
really
went pretty well. It randomly came up with a conversation about how Bill Belichick was so able to mold the game plan around what he needed to. Yeah, the thing I appreciate the most, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, when something like this happens and it starts getting reported, the national media swooped in and said there were a lot of red flags on him. They took it. Listen, his ability is first or second round talent. The Bengals got him later than that. He fell that far because of the red flags. All right, so they took a chance on him, whatever. But I guess the big thing initially, even from local media, not just fans, was, man, they just need to cut him. They just need to cut.
Yeah, let's relax.
Now, listen, number one, a fleckless or a powerless regime would have played him anyway.
Yeah.
Because they were down 2 receivers, right? T. Higgins and Chuck Sizzle were both out. So if you said, well, you know, we can't do anything about it. He's part of the game plan. We're going to play him anyway. That would garner less respect. There's a lot of respect right now, knowing next man up. You're not playing today. Get your act together. And frankly, if you don't, we'll be okay. Yeah. And I like that. I like that. And now, so you got to know when to step on them and you got to know when to hug them, right? And I know they're pros. Mike Hilton's exactly right. This isn't high school or college anymore. I get that. But at the same time, if you want to get anything out of him, burying him completely right now would probably not be the answer. And so they gave him the disciplinary action, and now we'll see what happens. It ball's in his court, I guess.
Yeah, especially with what's coming up on Thursday. You probably need all the weapons you can get in this game. I mean, you were so close to beating them the last time you played them, and it was a really, really well-played game. And now, you know, God knows. I mean, I assume the game plan is T's going to play Thursday, but with him, obviously, we know that'll change Wednesday at 7:00. So, but they're going to need everything they can get in this game. And for him, I feel like if this is a game where you want to prove yourself that, hey, I made a mistake and I'm going to be part of this team, what better way to do it than against your division rival in a huge game on national TV? Well, streaming TV.
Yes. Well, speaking of weapons, though, and you already mentioned, we were talking about Mike Gesicki, and you talked about kind of who's better at what. The tight end position is very different. Like because of what happened the other day, or with Burton, probably they played Gesicki more along with the second tight end. So they're playing at least 2 tight ends a lot anyway. 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, and you've got your Drew Samples of the world to play more of the blocking role. And the weapons that we mentioned, Erick All apparently gone for the season with an ACL. That's tough because he was the one guy capable of doing both. Yeah, being that inline, down to down blocking tight end versus the guy who could catch you a pass or be an outlet for Burrow. It is a tough loss. I will say between Hudson, Gesicki as pass catchers and Sample as a blocker, I still think they're very capable at getting the job done. But Erick All made a big difference in this offense, even after coming off ACL last year as well. So that's a huge loss.
It's a huge loss because he was so when I did the Rip from Red show a couple weeks, I had Andrew Foxmiller on, and we were talking about these young guys who are up and coming and kind of establishing themselves in this offense. And Erick All was a name that was mentioned multiple times by all of us, because no pun intended, because he has been tremendous in his role. He has been great, and you could tell the way he landed, something didn't seem right. It absolutely sucks because, like you said, he probably behind Gesicki's probably your second best talent-wise tight end, and still learning how to play at the NFL level and catching up. But like you said, I mean, that fourth down conversion yesterday, where look at that, they throw across the line of scrimmage on fourth down, and Tanner Hudson makes the play. You have that benefit, and Gesicki's your guy that can still stretch the field. And like you said, Sample, you can use that H-back situation where there's a blocker in the backfield, and I don't know. Maybe there was like one play yesterday. Looked like he tried to throw in the end zone for Amarius Mims. I don't know if that was the game plan, but maybe that's something they got sneaky going on as well, since it's happened to them twice this year. But I do feel fine. Obviously, I'd feel much better with All, especially in that 12 formation, like you mentioned, with Chase Brown in the backfield. But I think that they're good enough offensively, especially the way Burrow's playing this year, that they can get by and still find a way to win games.
And that's where Burton, going back to him, needs to understand that in the NFL, it is next man up.
Yep.
I mean, you look at the guys that have been lost start. Dax Hill's gone, and it was like, oh my, what's going to happen? You look back the last couple of years, Awuzie goes down, and you think there's just no way, and they still have a successful season. The NFL, especially if you're good at building a roster, you can make up for certain things to a point.
Yeah.
To a point. Let's look at the defense really quickly. Trey Hendrickson obviously continues another great year. 4 sacks in the game. Chris Jenkins got his first sack of his career. Great job out of him. But Trey Hendrickson was the story off, again, against a really depleted offensive line. The Raiders were down multiple guys.
They were, and that's where you want Trey to feast. Just pin your ears back and rush, and he did just that. You could tell. I mean, I listened to his interview with El Lap at the end of the game in the locker room, and you could tell he was kind of giving the lineman that he played against, I can't remember his name, it's off my head, some credit, but realistically, we all know that he knew that he had that guy beat pretty bad.
Well, he had him beat any way he wanted, and the funny thing is, a lot of times Hendrickson's more of a speed guy or whatever, or a nice swim move or whatever to get around a guy. Bull rush the whole game. Dude, I mean, he put that guy on his behind.
The one where he hits Ritter. Not the one before the fumble, where he just literally just like shoves him out of the way and gets to Ritter before Ritter even has a second to go through his reads, was probably my favorite Trey Hendrickson sack yet. That was unbelievable.
In slow motion and watch the guy just bounce.
Yeah. Poor Desmond Ritter. Like, I mean, I've been very open in my feelings of him as a football player. But probably didn't deserve the pain he took in that game yesterday.
Well, it was his chance to try to be the starter there. Logan Wilson did recover 2 fumbles.
Yeah, he was awesome
to lead the way, so that was good too.
Mike Hilton was incredible. I mean, there's a lot of shortcomings when it comes to Mike Hilton that a lot of people like to point out, but I'm a huge Mike Hilton fan because of games like yesterday. Just straight up a great blitzing corner, and will attack you, will make plays for your team, and doesn't back down from any play whatsoever. Especially the fact he came here from a god-awful city, that he said, no, thanks, I want to go play here. So I appreciate that about him as well. Yeah. Mike Hilton right there is like kind of going in Bengals lore for me. He's been like a huge part of these 4 years that he's been here, and he's always doing something to where you're talking about him. I don't really think he gets burned too much. I don't have the PFF numbers in front of me by any means, but what we see from him is it's pretty awesome. It's really fun to see.
Well, his role is to cover tight ends and come up and play the line of scrimmage. And honestly, when they've had success against Derrick Henry, who you'll see this week, it's been Mike Hilton.
Yeah.
Who's really been that guy to make that first hit. And not just – sometimes guys make first hit on Derrick Henry and they don't live to tell about it, so to speak. Mike Hilton.
Yeah, poor Jeremiah Owusu-Kamara the other day.
So before we talk about that a little more, trading deadline, there's some huge things happening tomorrow, Tuesday. Trade deadline NFL, first college football playoff release, and something called the election.
That whole thing. So the Redneck Roundtable.
Yes, we do have one of those coming out. That's right, tomorrow. So those big things happening in our nation tomorrow. my son just asked me on Friday, do you think they'll make any moves? And I was like, nope. And then, who is it? Rossini on ESPN is out there saying they haven't made a trade in however many years. And it's like, no. They haven't made a deadline trade, an in-season trade in that many years. They've made trades, okay? BJ Hill was a trade, So, yes, they have made some trades, but they just don't deal in season. What are the odds you think that they will actually make a move or two?
Highly unlikely. I would love for them to. Specifically in the interior defensive lineman and the secondary. But I don't think they will. It makes all the sense in the world to do so. Your season's been really disappointing, and you're a game behind the Broncos for a playoff spot. Still, you're still alive. And obviously, look, we're halfway through the year. You're about to have, in 7 weeks, you're about to play one home game. So you're going to need all the depth you can get with all the traveling you're going to be doing. Unbelievable how the schedule worked out that way. But yeah, I mean, I don't see them doing because it's something they haven't done. But hey, now's the time to buck the trend. Go make your team better. Go get the guys you need to go get and make something happen. There's a lot of opportunity out there with the teams who aren't playing very well. I mean, look at Cleveland. I'm sure they've got some guys they'd like to dump some salary over right now that could really help your team. I think what's his name? Zadarius Smith was the name I think that was mentioned as a potential Bengal target. Doubt it. But and then the guy from the Giants, another UC guy, pass rusher. I can't remember his name. I'm sure
I'm blanking on that too. But Calais Campbell and an older guy down at Miami.
Would love to have Calais Campbell. Yeah,
that'd be really cool. It's too bad Hugh Jackson's not manning the fax machine up in Cleveland. Still, we could have.
Yeah, I know, right?
We'd give you AJ McCarron for 3 linebackers. That'd be nice, or a couple rush ins. No, so I doubt they will either. It would be a welcome sight if they did, and certainly, as you said, that just especially this week. Now that's a little tough to be playing Thursday night when the trade deadline's on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like I doubt the person you trade for would be active by Thursday, so you're kind of going with all hands on deck into that game. But then you have the mini bye, right, from Thursday wraparound, so that would get time to get the new player or players acclimated to your system and things like that. All right, before we talk a little bit about your stream of consciousness on Twitter, let's talk a little bit about this Baltimore game. Again, I'd be much more hopeful if it was at home. I think that's where we start with that. They have to go to Baltimore, but this franchise has won in Baltimore before, and certainly
many great times
could do it again. Keys to the game for you if they do pull off a win.
Well, I think the first thing is I have to get over the PTSD of last year's Thursday Night Ravens game. I have to get that out of my head before I feel very comfortable about this. I know right now they're on this losing streak against the Ravens, but realistically, if you look at it, they've still been pretty evenly matched. I know what the score says last year, but when Joe Burrow hurt his hand last year, they took the lead.
Yes.
So what happens if he's still healthy and in that game? And obviously, the first thing is continuing Derrick Henry. How do you make sure he doesn't, take off like he has? He's had an unbelievable year. Way better than I thought he would. I really thought that the traction was coming off the tire. I thought the traction was coming off the tires there for a little bit, and I was wrong. Obviously, you know what Lamar can do. And I mean, their wide receivers have really stepped up. I hate the Ravens. I hate to give them credit, but Zay Flowers has been really good for a couple weeks now. And it's a game where you're going to have to, you can't waste possessions. Burrow talked about that for the last time, and you have to take full advantage. I know Baltimore is always known for being this big, bad defense. They've obviously shown the last couple of weeks, they're very capable of giving up a lot of points.
They are. Well, even against us, they did 38 points.
Yeah. And Jameis Winston went in there and beat them. I love Jameis Winston. He's hilarious, but come on. Like, Jameis Winston should not be beating you with Jerry Jeudy. And he did. How's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase not going to be able to pull this one off? But I thought 6.5 was a pretty shocking spread. I don't know if there's that much of a difference between the two teams. I understand the Ravens are home. I understand they don't have to travel like the Bengals do. But I believe in Joe Burrow. I believe in him finding ways to make guys better and better, and he's done that forever. And if they have a healthy T. Higgins in this game, man, I really think they can go down there and pull it off.
Well, it's not quite like traveling and going all the way to Miami or out
Right.
west or something like that. So the travel shouldn't be that bad. It's just more the body clock and the short
Yeah.
week and that kind of thing. I'm just amazed, and you're right about the receivers. National folks loved that Zay Flowers pick at the time, and I tried to poke as many holes in my mind in it as I could. I'm not objective when it comes to Browns, Steelers, or Ravens. I just can't be. And so
I'm with you, man.
I know you are that way with Pittsburgh for sure. So no, it's interesting to watch. But that offense, the biggest key is to now you have to contain two guys running, and it's Lamar and Henry, and that's going to be a huge key. A lot of these games in this time have come down to, even though Tucker's not the kicker he maybe was 3 years ago or whatever, they just get where they need to go, and then they make a kick. And you cannot – it's that middle of the field, between the 40s, basically. The Bengals need to get stops before they cross midfield, because he's gonna take those kicks, and they're going to matter. Because the past before this year, those games were more lower scoring. Those games were more like the Chiefs games around the 20-point mark. If you could get over 20, you're winning the game. I don't know what to expect, though, because on Thursday night, crazy things happen. You could see another 80-ish points scored in the game total again, and it wouldn't really surprise me.
I kind of expect it, to be honest with you, the way that the offenses are going. I don't really feel like, I know Burrow was pretty. I feel like this is going to be a week that Joe's going to be on everybody. You could see he was not happy in the second half, and you could see him. He came out there. He's like, it has to be cleaner. We have to play better. That effort wasn't good enough in the second half, and he knows obviously what this game is. And look, we're in November. This is Joe Burrow season. This is where he pulls off the impossible, right? November on is when Joe Burrow does Joe Burrow things, regardless of how limited his team is. So I have a ton of faith that he can pull this one off. I'm not going to go and guarantee they'll win.
No.
But do I feel confident in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase able to pull off a win in Baltimore against the defense they currently have? Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Bengals, I think they're 26-7 in November or later with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
When he's healthy. So
pretty good numbers.
That's pretty good, especially with all the slow starts. November is the time when they kind of start that, and December also, obviously. But all right. We're going to close out on this. A nice welcome. A return to Welcome to the Jungle here on the riverfront. I'm following you on Twitter.
Bad idea.
Well, it's a grueling season for a lot of folks. It's like baseball is an everyday thing. Yes, we do get negative about the Reds, believe it or not, on Twitter and elsewhere.
We do.
You try to keep more positive, though, over the course of time and find things to root for. But the Bengals only playing once a week, and they spend all week thinking about it, and then all of a sudden the game comes and Jermaine Burton news hits before the game, and then the game happens itself, and there's a mistake here, a mistake there early. All right. I presume you were reacting to the Jermaine Burton news, I assume, when you said basically it's an awful season as a fan, and obviously us Bengals fans have been through way worse teams than this one, which is true. I mean, the problem is the expectations.
Yes.
The expectations here are playing in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, and thus far, pretty close to playoff land right now, but thus far. Then you had an LOL. I assume that might be the Raiders' first drive.
Yep. The DJ Ivy pass interference.
I was explaining,
just crushing them.
I was explaining to somebody the other day that it's a smaller window. It's that 2021-22 probably, because last year was a mess. Lose defenses would give up an early touchdown a lot. Yeah. And then lose defenses would settle in, do well the rest of the half, and then make huge adjustments at halftime and beat really good teams like Patrick Mahomes multiple times. So, okay. But again, you're in the moment. I've
never done this before. I don't know if this is going to be favorable to me or not.
There's a guy. No, see, hot takery is huge. There's a guy that covers national college football, and when Will Howard threw the pick six to start the game, he was basically writing his game story already. Oh, and man. Dude, it's 3 minutes into the game. Let's.
You should see me during Notre Dame games when Riley Leonard makes some stupid throw.
Oh, he makes some exciting time. All right, so to celebrating throwing the ball ahead of the line of scrimmage on fourth down, we mentioned that. You tweeted out about that, after last week, and the way Zach owns up to his mistakes sometimes, that just fuels our fire. Like,
yeah, it really
you
does.
admitted on Monday that wasn't very smart. We, as idiot fans who already, you and I both admitted maybe schematics, we don't always know because we're not football guys necessarily. We didn't grow up coaching the game or whatever.
Yeah.
We know that was dumb to try to give it to somebody 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage on a 4th and 1.
Even if it is Jamar Chase, it's still
Even
tough.
if the percentages aren't there, they threw it across the line. They get the first down. Awesome stuff. You said CTB was getting spin cycled, and that's absolutely true. I'm not sure what has happened to him this year. His talk has gone up, and his cover ability has gone down.
Yeah.
Your tweet about being happy about Burrow moving around and making plays, absolutely true. We've already talked about that in the show. And then you had, what are they doing? And I wonder if that was a reaction to why are they still out there? Why are they still running some of these plays? Was that the pick six?
Actually, it was like the start of that possession. It was, okay, look, we play Baltimore on Thursday.
Yes.
We're up big. This game is in hand.
Uh-huh.
Let's be as healthy as possible going into that game. We've already lost Erick All today. So... and you don't know if you're going to have T. Higgins or Chuck Sizzle for Thursday.
That's true.
Why risk it?
Yes.
Why risk it, Zach? This is my Zach Taylor 101s. Look, they're probably not going to find anyone who's more frustrated with Zach Taylor than me. But yeah, the pick six certainly did not help at all in that circumstance.
To quote a local coach here in the Columbus area one year when they were playing their rival, they're up 37-14. It's week 9 or 10. They're getting ready for the playoffs. And they're still throwing in the fourth quarter. They score a touchdown to go up 44-14. And one of the reporters says, "Why were you doing that?" And he said he wanted to work on their pocket passing. Like, no, you didn't. You wanted to beat your rival by as many as possible. So it is exhausting being a Bengals fan this year. Me catching up on your tweets was a little exhausting as well.
Yeah, I know.
Very entertaining.
I tell my wife all the time, like, I think Sundays, I just need to take the Twitter app off my phone because I'm sure people just think I'm a lunatic.
Yeah, there's times when I think going through Twitter during a game, because I rarely keep up with it to the minute because I'm watching a game, right? And talking to whoever's with me and things like that. So I'm scrolling through maybe at halftime. I'm like, I got to get through this first half. And everybody I follow is either Bengals, Reds, Ohio State type people. So it's like, okay, well, I've got 40 people tweeting the same thing about Jermaine Burton. Okay, that's cool. But still, I don't know. In-game tweeting is either the best or the worst thing, depending on the situation. It just is.
Yeah, I think it's the college basketball journalism in me who still pops up because that was kind of like when I would write my post-game recap, I would just go through my stream of like my chain, like, and just like use that for like what I point out my articles.
Okay.
So I don't know if I just trained myself to do that on accident and I need to break myself of that now that I'm just like not going to be in arenas anymore. But it was, I need to get better with it for sure. Like,
I remember, when Twitter was new, it was almost like nobody cares what I think about this.
Yeah.
And now it's just it's all or nothing. It's like either I'm putting it down for a while or you're going to hear everything I have to say about this game.
Yeah. So. I think I was toned back this week compared to normal. I didn't have.
It wasn't very many. No.
I didn't have any fire Zach Taylor tweets or what is going on here. I guess I did have a what is going on here in a roundabout way, but
well, I have a friend with Ohio State where during the game he's ready to fire everybody.
Yeah,
and then after the game or the next week when we catch up, it's like he's very reasoned, and I'm like, what? How are you to these two different people? So it does happen. But anyway,
Seth, I mean, dude, my years covering Notre Dame football. I mean, I had so many. Why is Brian Kelly still coaching this team? And now I agree with them, but then I didn't. But now I'm all for it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hey, this is awesome to be back on here with some more Bengals content. We're looking forward to doing this. You and I maybe will be able to sit down a little more often. Joe Farfsing may jump back in here and run this show a little more. We're looking to really get that content out there and really be part of things again. And talking about a Bengals win and Joe Burrow's time of November and December, there's no better time.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks for setting this up. I appreciate it.
All right, let's go get them Bengals, and we'll be back possibly in a week or so.
Who dey?
Who dey?